Matthew 27, verse 45. From the 6th hour into the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? We miss the meaning of the cross today. As a matter of fact, it's almost perished. You are not saved because of a wooden cross. You are not saved because the Romans beat his back. You are not saved because of a crown of thorns on his head. And you are not saved because someone pierced his hands with nails. You are saved because he died, forsaken of his own Father, and condemned in your place. The pain of the cross is not found in crosses or nails or crowns of thorns or stripes on a back. The pain of the cross and what has caused you to be redeemed is the fact that the Son of God became a curse. You see, you don't realize that much because you don't hear it much. What makes the cross such a tragic but yet such an important event is that when Christ was on the cross, all the wrath of Almighty God that you should drink, he drank in your place. You see, when he was in the garden, I'm amazed that so many people wonder what was that cup he was so worried about drinking and that he wanted to pass from him. Well, just study the Old Testament. Almost every reference to cup in the Old Testament has something to do with the wrath of Almighty God. On that tree, he carried your sin. Everything that ever made you an abomination to Almighty God. Everything that God ever hated about you. Everything that ever deserved the wrath of God. Every disgusting, despicable abomination, trespass, and iniquity you ever committed, he carried. And he held up the cup of God's wrath, and he drank it. And when he turned it over, not one drop was left for you. Where's the pain of the cross? What makes that death such a terrifying and yet powerful thing? You see, you can't know unless you know what you are apart from it. Anything that deviates, even less than a millimeter from the righteous standard of God, is nothing more than an abomination before him and under a curse. When Jesus Christ was on that tree, it wasn't Romans that bothered him. It wasn't mocking from Jews. Is that the one who had always dwelt in the bosom of the Father carried our sin and became an abomination before him and became accursed. Jesus Christ, bearing your sin, became so terrible, such an abomination. God was glorified in his destruction. The pain of the cross, throw the whip to the wind. That's a little thing. Crosses, millions of people have died on crosses. Crowns of thorns, small thing. Broken fellowship between the Father and the Son. Any one of us, in any shape, form, or fashion, trying to draw near to a holy God would get nothing but the heaven's door slammed squarely in our face. Turned away. The door was slammed on someone else, the Son. He died. You're a child of God. He died for you. That's what makes everything else so small in life. And he died not under the wrath of man. That's not the big thing here. He didn't die a martyr. He wasn't wrestled up there. This wasn't something against God's will. It was God's design and God's plan. The only way for man to be saved. It is men that sinned against God. It's men who deserve to die. God had to become a man to take men's sin, to take your sin, and to take your curse and your condemnation and your wrath and die for you. Let's go to Isaiah 53. Lord's will to crush him and to cause him to suffer. My goodness, do you understand these words? It was God's will to crush him. The only way that you and I might be saved was for a perfect sacrifice to be crushed under the full strength of God's wrath. God is a just God. He cannot wink at sin. He can't pass over it. It must be dealt with. And the only way was for it to be dealt with on a cross. And to be dealt with through the Holy Son of God that became an abomination. The carrier of our sin. The serpent lifted up in the wilderness to be crushed by God. So that the full length of his justice would be poured out. So that then mercy could be poured out on you. But it seems to me that everyone is always preaching about nails and crosses, and they're not preaching about the right thing. That the pain of the tree has nothing to do with metal or wood, but with the fact that the Son of God became a low thing. The most exalted name in all of glory became a low thing. A worm, a serpent, a lamb, a goat, a sacrifice, a substitution, make no mistake about it, an expiation, a thing to appease the wrath of Almighty God.